Hello there, kia ora, and welcome to this week's The News. In the High Court this week, Ngāi Tahu has been arguing that the Crown has left the state of freshwater in the South Island in a terrible state, and it needs to recognise tino rangatira over freshwater for the iwi. The tribe's lawyer is former Treaty Negotiations Minister Chris Finlayson, KC, who, as part of the John Key National Party-led government whose relaxed attitude to water care and pandering to farmers contributed to the state of the waterways, says, "Now I'm out of government, I can be honest, we done fucked up." International men's fashion expert Derek Guy has questioned the taste levels of Prime Minister Christopher Luxon after he made a social media video promoting New Zealand Lamb Day in a t-shirt over top of his suit jacket. There is a bit of history of Prime Ministers being tied up with fashion, like when John Key decided to wear whatever this was, and Helen Clark and Jacinda Ardern walked the world of wearable art stage, but this is the first time any of them has been called out by the fashion police. In response, the Prime Minister has said, though, that this counts towards their target of 500 new police officers by at least one. A new report from the Salvation Army has highlighted that 400,000 people, or 12% of the population last year, applied for additional help from MSD and peripheral organisations amidst a worsening cost of living crisis driven by economic, climate and recession. The report also found that violence and neglect impacting children had increased and that overall violent crime had increased, although young offender crime had continued a downward trend that spanned the past decade. They called for a fairer safety net social welfare system and a way to lower rents, said the Prime Minister. Seen here taking someone else's job for a laugh, they should just pull up their bootstraps and go door knocking. I'm wealthy and sorted, it's not my problem. The saviour of the economy, the recently announced digital nomad visa, has not seen an increase in visa applications, according to Immigration New Zealand. In fact, it seems to have had the opposite effect. An extra 50,000 views to the corresponding websites were recorded in the first 2 weeks after the new visa was announced, but fewer than 24,000 applications have been received for all visa categories, said Immigration Minister Erica Stanford, seen here calling for an end to the trade blockade around the planet Naboo. "We're still working out why no one wants to visit and work here with our historic unemployment, blatant racism, degrading health and education systems, failing infrastructure, and the worst recession since the early 90s. But I'm sure we'll cancel something Māori soon and use the funds to come up with a solution." 7 months after a special election in Tauranga, it's been revealed that new Mayor and former Olympian Mahi Drysdale, seen here wishing he was still on the water and not dealing with the insanity of the most extreme Tauranga locals, still hasn't moved to Tauranga, instead commuting from Cambridge for work. Said Tauranga's most vocal online commentators, well, at least he's not like that lazy Maori councillor who had to quit due to ongoing health concerns. In Tamaki Makaurau, overnight tests on the new rail lines were deemed successful, bringing new transport hubs to busy areas one step closer to fruition. Said Mayor Wayne Brown, "See, Christopher, this is how you get things back on track. Now, all I need to do is find out where this Karanga happy place is. I wonder if it's near K Road somewhere." Southland MP Joseph Mooney, seen here preparing to abandon the sinking ship known as the National Party, was this week caught out accidentally sending a text to Carmel Sepuloni, Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, complaining about the ACT Party, saying it's funny that ACT never defend their policies in hearings and never ask questions. In a faux pas likely to be mentioned many times in the future, showing widening cracks in the coalition. When asked for comment, an ACT spokesperson said, "We're not going to defend that and we have no questions. Now do as we say or we'll rip the country to shreds." Serial bitcher Julian Batchelor, seen here looking for his white privilege and not being able to find it despite everyone else telling him where it is and that it's really obvious, made an appearance this week at the Treaty Principles Bill Select Committee hearing where he claimed that God spoke to him on a beach and told him to start a ministry. No, sorry, that's what he said about his failed evangelical church. He held a sign there that read, "Homosexuality is a thing that God hates." No, wait, sorry, that was his protest against the Hero Parade in the 90s, and last year he said his views still stand strong on that particular issue. Oh. He said immigrants should go home. No, sorry, that was from his 2005 run as a New Zealand First candidate against Helen Clark. Maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be listening to anything this person has to say, and just everyone around him should ignore him completely. It was revealed in Parliament this week that 8 out of 10 youth offenders who took part in the same but different boot camp have re-offended and are now back in youth justice facilities. At the time of the launch, Karen Chow, Children's Minister, claimed that the new camps were different to the ones run under the previous national government. Technically, she's not wrong. The success rate for this camp sits at a meagre 10% after the tragic death of one of the attendees, whereas John Key's boot camps had a success rate of 47%. The New Zealand English Teachers Association has exited the Ministry of Education curriculum rewrite process, citing a shambolic process too focused on getting what the course writers want in, no matter how much of a cognitive overload it would cause students or the impossible to achieve workload it would force teachers to undertake. The new curriculum came under fire last year when it was revealed it was being guided by regular disinformation media outlet guest Dr. Elizabeth Rata, seen here sucking up to the MP who gave her a job to rewrite the curriculum by supporting the Treaty Principles Bill, was determined to include the collections of Shakespeare and Beowulf into the program and include cursive writing, and expected she would have final say on the curriculum over the ministry itself, revealed in leaks to RNZ last year. So the fact that uppity teachers think that they know better is clearly not possible. Wellington Mayor Tory Whanau, seen here with a mini version of the Gatekeeper or the Keymaster from Ghostbusters, this week unveiled plans for a revamped Golden Mile project within the city's central business district. The new plan creates more space for outdoor eating, public seating, self-sufficient green areas that filter rainwater before returning it to the harbour, and alternative transport use options. But for balance, the Post decided the best person to talk to was the person who came second in a by-election last year campaigning against the changes, who shockingly did not like the changes, and it wasn't disclosed that they were a candidate who ran against these changes in the election, instead demanding more money be spent on fixing pipes, despite a 300% budget increase to water infrastructure projects in the last 3 years within the city. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, seen here playing cricket, a sport you can't score against yourself in, scored an own goal in the House this week when opposition made calls to fire David Seymour from ministerial positions after he wrote a letter of support for Philip Polkinghorne after he had complained that MPs shouldn't interfere in judicial decisions, and he responded with a list of Labour MPs that were fired from ministerial positions as examples of MPs not fired. Of course, this isn't really much of a surprise, since Luxon clearly feels the only sort of MPs who should be punished for not doing their job are women, or lefties. MP Shane Jones, seen here explaining to the waiter how big a pile of free food he wants from the meal that's being paid for by lobbyists, has criticised Te Pāti Māori MP Takuta Ferris for not delivering an apology in the House in English. Ferris was recently found to have called MPs known for not telling the truth liars in the House, which is against the rules for Parliament, and as a result was asked to apologise. Ferris delivered his apology in Te Reo Māori, which as an officially recognised language is permitted, but Jones felt the apology should be in English, which it does not have to be. Jones felt it was important everyone could see and understand what was being said, while Ferris said in a response, "Te reo mātua, Shane. How about taking that approach to cameras on fishing ships?" And finally, the Minister of Internal Affairs, Brooke Van Velden, has used Valentine's Day to release marriage statistics for 2024. More than 20,000 marriages were registered last year, with almost half of those being people in their 30s, and 740 of those people being over 70. Since New Zealand records began in 1848, there's been 12,272 people who have chosen to make Valentine's Day their wedding day. Said Van Velden, "See, even I can acknowledge that you humans have a need for an emotion you call love." And that is this week's The News. Hey, thanks for checking out today's video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you get more updates as we go along. We deal with these guys for the rest of the year.